time to check out a Stan Kraychik mystery, Book 5. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York, 1996. Narrator, Eric Ost. Chapter 16. Somehow, I attract the most unlikely people, sexually speaking. I'm no Olympiad. I'm not even promiscuous. Sort of. But I do have some peculiar magnet for sexually gifted creatures. So it was with Ross. As the night progressed, he did his job exceedingly well. So much so that we didn't really have sex. Not if the act was limited to the fiery conjoining of loins, however protected by latex. I mean, we didn't do any of the pokey things. Instead, Ross did what I needed. I had asked him to like me, and he performed the task with conviction. I knew it was an act on both our parts, but it still felt pretty good. He left my room as the sun was coming up. Shortly after that came a knock on my door, followed by the abrupt intrusion of the houseboy, carrying a big tray of food. "Breakfast for two," he said. "Kind of early," I said, "especially for something I didn't order." "The owner thought you and your guest." He looked around the room and then listened toward the bathroom for giveaway sounds, then looked back at me perplexed. "They said you had a guest, and they hoped you'd find us joined at the hip." "Something like that." "Sorry to disappoint you," I said. The houseboy glanced toward the night table, still lying there, in the open, with the four $50 bills I'd put out for Ross the night before. "Looks like he forgot something," he said as he eyed the money hungrily. "That's someone else's wages," I said. "But I'll take that breakfast." I gave him $10 for his trouble and sent him away. I drank the juice and started on the coffee. Though it was just after 7, I telephoned Nicole at home. She fumbled as she picked up the receiver. "Too early," she growled. "It's me," I said quickly. "Don't hang up." I told her about finding Adolph's body the day before and everything that ensued from there. Nicole said, "Darling, I love you, but it's a little early to appreciate your Nancy Drew exploits. So if you don't mind, Nikki, wait till you hear this." And then I told her about the defense lawyer I'd hired for Jerry Takir named Nancy L. Drew. When I finished, Nicole said, "It sounds like a 3-ring circus down there." "It's more like the sideshow doll." By that time, Nicole realized I needed to talk, because instead of hanging up, she asked if I was having any fun. I said, "Do you mean fun or sex?" "Well, well," said Nicole. "What's his name?" "Ross." "And what does he do?" "He tends bar, and he hustles." "I see," she said. "Is he any good?" "He makes a great martini." "But does he make a living, Stanley, or is he after your money?" "He's after everyone's money, but he won't take mine." "Aha!" said Nicole. "And has this dalliance with a sex professional displaced your new lady friend?" "Which lady friend?" "Didn't you meet a woman you dared to compare to me?" "Never, doll. You're incomparable." "Thank you, Stanley. Just be careful you don't lead these new conquests on. Someone might fall in love with you. Nikki, one is a paid professional, and the other is a grown woman who accepts my sexuality." "How naive you are, Stanley. How old is she, anyway?" "Younger than you, but then, who is it?" "Pre or post?" "No hot flashes yet." "Then be careful, Stanley. She may want a child by you." "Nikki, she's a cabaret singer." "How's her skin?" "Are you jealous?" "Hardly. But really, Stanley, I am tempted to come down there and drag you home by the ears. Your blindness borders on self-destruction. First another woman, and now a hustler. What are you doing?" She paused for a breath and said quietly, "You're screaming, doll." "I am not screaming," she screamed. "It's okay, Nikki. I'm desperate. I'm lonely. And I'm miserable. But I'm okay, honest. Now I wish you had taken the cat with you. You'd be forced to keep a glimmer of sanity just so you wouldn't neglect her." "My little safety net," I said, and thought of Sugar Baby. "And where's my little safety net, Stanley? If I don't hear your voice every 24 hours, I'm coming down there in person. Is that clear? Yes, doll. 24 hours, she said again. I don't care what time it is. Just call and say live. And that's all you have time for between your hustler and all the others. Cozy Dinette is not all the others. Nicole roared. Is that her name? Cozy Dinette? She is an entertainer, I said. With a name like that, oh, Stanley, it may already be too late to save you. Nikki, she's fun. You asked me if I was having fun. I did mean sex, darling. And I want you to call me. Agreed? Yes. Solemn promise. You've made your point. I doubt it, she said, and then hung up. Thus refreshed, I set out for another day of tropical fun and frolic, such as it was. My first errand was to tell Lieutenant Sanfuentes what I'd learned from Ken Kimball the previous night at his pool party, that he'd had dinner of uncertainty in his possession for a short time, and that it had been taken from his place, or so he claimed. But then I remembered my promise to Ken that our talk had been sub rosa, and though I am a lapsed Roman Catholic, I couldn't violate that confidence, so I told Sanfuentes about the painting, but without naming names, and I changed the rampant orgy to some anonymously hosted ordinary pool party. Well, the cop still didn't believe any of it. He said I was taking desperate measures, lying just to get my friend Jerry Takir out of jail. He sat back in his chair, then rocked himself lightly as if to comfort himself, the way his mama once did. A few quiet minutes passed, and I sensed Sanfuentes wanted to tell me something. Finally he spoke. Just between you and me, he said strictly off the record, I don't have much of a case against Miss Takir. And then why are you holding her? It's my job to keep people safe. But Jerry hasn't hurt anyone. Are you dense? Sanfuentes shook his head impatiently. I'm trying to protect her. From whom? That's what I don't know yet, said the cop. See, even I got questions with no answers, just like you. Difference is, it's my job. But you're supposed to be on vacation, so why don't you go now and have some fun? Do some shopping. Meet some new people. I've already done that. Yeah, so I heard, said the cop. You had yourself a nice little time last night. I already told you it was just a pool party. I meant the business in your room. How'd you know about that? I said. Sanfuentes said, it's a small town. I left the police station and walked to Fleming Street and passed by the Fleming Lemming. When I saw a line of gabby tourists extending out the open door, I peered beyond them and saw Joshua 18 at the front desk inside. He was happily selling them little piles of things, all the while talking on the telephone. From what I could see of the goods, they were all Key West souvenirs, pre-selected, shrink-wrapped, and specially priced. No shipping necessary. No browsing. No thinking. Just a nice, safe little pile of Key West this, Key West that, and Key West etc. When the garrulous mob finally disbanded, Joshua also hung up the phone. Had it been a prop merely to deflect the yakking tourist? He burbled enthusiastically at me. That little army of shoppers just paid out rent for the next 2 months. I love tourists. I fly them in, I put them up, I sell them souvenirs, then I send them off in the conch trains and the glass-bottom boats. He flushed as he straightened out the pile of money he'd just taken in. I asked him where Laura was. He told me she'd gone out on an errand. Then he said, I had a little adventure with some of our local culture last night. Or should I say local trade? News travels fast, I said. Small town, said Joshua good-naturedly. And you scored a small victory, too. Victory, Joshua said. Ross never sleeps with a John. He does his job, then leaves. And then he added with emphasis, and he always takes his fee. You seem to know everything that transpired. Except the blow-by-blow, said Joshua with his sexually hip inflection. Does everyone else on the island know, too? Just about, he said. How about answering a question for me, then? If I can, said Joshua. You said that all those items you just sold will pay 2 months' rent here. And I was wondering, who's your landlord? Said Joshua. The sexually hip smirk was gone. Well, if Peter Willits used to own this place, and then Augusta got it, and then her church, does that mean your landlord is Augusta's church? Joshua replied flatly. It hasn't come up yet. But it will, and then who will you make the check out to? That's a good question, he said. Everyone knows who their landlord is, Joshua, if they have one. The telephone rang and he picked it up. Yeah. What? When? Was anyone hurt? Okay. Yeah. No. Then he hung up the phone and said to me, That was Laura. No wonder she's late. She was down by the marina when someone threw a firebomb onto one of the tour boats. Joshua snickered. I guess some unhappy tourist got seasick. Or maybe it was a sore loser, I said. Joshua studied me wearily, the way a loan officer at a bank might do. Then he said, What are you driving at? Wasn't the Countess supposed to inherit Blue Water Tours from Peter Willits? Maybe she feels if she can't have it, no one can. Joshua shrugged. I'd better get down there and make sure Laura's okay. She sounds really shook up. You're going to have to find another place to pack yourself. No problem, I said. But before I was out the door, Joshua asked me for $5. Cash for the car, he said. Didn't you just take in a pile of cash? Oh, that's right, he said. I forgot. What else had he conveniently forgot? I headed down Fleming Street toward Duval. A few minutes later, I met Laura Hope, riding her motor scooter toward me. She stopped and I told her Joshua had just gone to the marina to make sure she was all right after the firebomb on the tour boat. She immediately called him on her cellular phone and told him she was on her way back to the Fleming Lemming and that everything was okay. Then I asked her the same question I put to Joshua. Who was their landlord now that Peter Willits was dead? She smiled brightly and said, I assume we'll just pay the estate now. The estate of whom? I said. Her brow creased slightly. Augusta Willits, she said. But she doesn't own the property anymore. Her church does. Then I guess we'll pay the church, said Laura. Why does it matter? Because all of Peter Willits' property belongs to somebody else now, and I wonder who it is. Laura said, Didn't you just say a church? Doesn't it bother you to pay rent on property that was rightfully yours, and to a church, no less? What difference does it make, she said. A bank, a landlord, a church. Someone always collects money for the roof over your head. Not if you own it outright, I said, or inherit it as you were supposed to. Her cheerfulness dispelled quickly. But who could blame her with me saying things like that? Then I asked her why Peter Willits had intended the property for her alone, and not jointly with Joshua. Where did you hear that? She said. Small town, I said, using the same line people were throwing at me. I wonder if there was anything more between you and Peter Willits than a love of books. Like what? You tell me, I said. Laura said, Peter probably thought I wanted security and independence. Isn't that what you think too? That an intelligent woman like myself should leave Joshua? If only I had the means, and owning a business would give me that freedom. Maybe that's why Peter left the place to me, alone. Well, just for your information, I don't want freedom. I love Joshua. Can you understand that? Can any gay man? Peter thought he knew better, and you probably do too. But I'd give the place to Josh in a minute and let him turn it into a garage if he wanted to. I've already given up everything important for him. Why stop now? Does that answer your question? I was just curious, I said. Laura revved the small engine on her motor scooter and zoomed away up Fleming Street while I headed toward the marina to check out the earlier incendiary episode. At the waterfront, I found that my suspicions had proved right. A small crowd was gathered near one of the docks belonging to Blue Water Tours. Black smoke billowed from the open hatchways of one of the large tour boats. From within the throng of people shone a coral-colored silk turban, glowing brightly in the late morning sun. The Countess Rolalinska strained and stretched anxiously, trying to see above the people around her. I worked my way toward her, and when I was directly behind her, I spoke quietly into her ear. I hope their insurance didn't lapse. She turned to me with a shocked look. I said, "Who's running the company since you lost it?" "Go away," she muttered. And then she said to the man standing next to her, "Please, can you help me? The young man is harassing me." But instead of helping her, the guy moved away, putting other people between him and the Countess. I said, "The word is out on you, Countess. How dare you accuse me? You have no proof." "Your guilt is transparent." Suddenly she shrieked, "Help! Police! Help!" I quickly slithered away from her and out of the small crowd. And that's when I came face to face with Ken Kimball. "You left so quickly last night," he said. "I was hoping you'd stay longer. Had you made other plans?" No doubt Ken had already heard the unexpurgated, if fantastic, account of my escapade with Ross the previous evening, and with everyone around me lying, I lied too, and told Ken I'd left his party because I thought I'd worn out my welcome. "We're at your welcome," said Ken. "Never in my house," and he punctuated his remark with a flash of his expensive teeth. "What brings you here?" I said, changing the conversational tack with the finesse of a lubberly seaman. "Stasia called me," said Ken, right after the fire broke out. "Was she drawn by the crowd? Or was she already here?" Ken faltered. "What do you mean?" I shrugged. "Odd coincidence." "Is it?" said Ken. "Blue Water Tours was supposed to be hers, wasn't it? From Peter's will. And now one of the boats is on fire. It's no wonder she's concerned." "Yes," said Ken. "I'm sure that's why she's here." "Do you know who's managing it now?" "Who?" he said, as if I'd spoken in tongues. I said, "Peter is dead." "So who's running the company now?" "I'm sure I don't know," said Ken. "Somebody is," I said. "Somebody opens up and sells tickets and takes the boats out." Ken said, "A corporation, no matter how small, is capable of operating whether its owner is dead or alive." "Is that the same for the Gulf Coast Playhouse?" "What are you getting at?" he said finally, and absolutely irritated with me. "That property was supposed to be yours. I mean, along with Edsel Sham," Ken said quickly. "I don't have time for this nonsense. I must find Stasia." And off he went into the crowd to rescue the fox damsel in fiend distress. I was heading away from the fire scene when I saw Lieutenant Sanfuentes conferring with someone from the fire department. I approached him, and Sanfuentes excused himself from the other guy and came toward me. "Hey, you again," he said. "Everywhere I look, it's you. I thought I heard a ruckus. Were you bothering someone in the crowd?" "The lady in this silk turban," I said. "The Countess," said Sanfuentes with a wry smile. "You might want to talk to her, Lieutenant." "And what's that?" said the cop. "Because she was supposed to inherit Blue Water Tours." "So?" "Well, she didn't, so maybe she's trying to put it out of business." "Maybe it's just a coincidence," said the cop. "And maybe it isn't," I said. "Just thought I'd mention it." "Thanks," said Sanfuentes. "But I thought we agreed this morning. I don't need your help anymore." "I'm just talking, Lieutenant, being friendly. We can talk about the weather if you want." "Yeah, well, there'll be plenty of talk in that department soon. Weather Bureau just announced a hurricane watch. You might want to get out of town while you can." "I enjoy the forces of nature," I said. "This isn't nature," said Sanfuentes. "This might be a disaster." And then he turned and walked away from me. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.